Oh, it is great to be here. Thank you very much, Carax, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, I'm Middlecott, joined by Rebel Fox for the first game, well, for all of the games of this series between Luxury and Team Flash. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Every morning I get to wake up at like 4 a.m. Well, actually, I wake up at like 3 a.m. to prepare for this kind of thing. And there's nothing that's better as an alarm clock than knowing that we're going to have to scream about VCS ruining their draft every single time. And our analyst desk, obviously, they purely showed why it is that I'm able to wake up every morning.
Yeah, so I kind of want to pick your brains a little bit on that.
Sure.
The Kaiser pick for Slater, not a champion that we've really been seeing through the first half
Mhm.
of this year. And as someone who hasn't had the fortune of casting and watching many VCS games, is this a specific pick for this player, or is this something that he's pulled from kind of nowhere?
Well, first off, Slater's back in the day was actually a very good ADC inside the VCS, and this is one of his picks that he loves to go to. Now, depending on who you ask, specifically if you ask Yoe, one of our desk analysts, he would say that he should never pick this champion and instead should be on Ezreal, which is fair because he's an amazing Ezreal player, and his Kai'Sa has had its moments, right? But
Yeah.
this is something that he's already done, I believe, during the course of this season. Not just the Kai'Sa, but Kai'Sa into Zeri specifically as a response to this champion, or at least we've seen it here in the VCS. I know Mobby touched into the theory of like the wave clear and the Q, especially when you get the upgrade, and the possibility of being able to one-tap Zeri in one swift combo. There aren't a bunch of ADCs who are capable of doing that from the range that Kai'Sa does. I'm assuming that's the main reason that Slater wants something like this.
That makes a lot of sense to me, and I think people have been looking for a champion that can sort of hard counter the Zeri in that way. So maybe the Kai'Sa ends up being it.
I wouldn't put your faith into it. I'm sure Yoel wouldn't mind you not putting your faith into it either. But Slater's very good. They have a solid bottom lane between he and Artie. I'm in high respect.
Oh no! Oh, we've already got the VCS dive. It's 3 minutes in, and we've got first blood traded over. Vince's gonna stand under the tower and die as Artie gets the weirdest double kill I've seen in a while.
That's okay. All right. I guess we're starting off on very strange foots. I don't know how in the world Killer Queen ended up not taking the aggro after the tower play had come through, but the fact that Zeri ended up grabbing it, it does cost them a little bit. Thankfully, like you said, the double kill goes to Artie, the first blood goes to Artie, and the only kill that goes to Luxury does go on to the Jarvan. So there's some benefits here. Like it's double kill onto the support for one kill onto the jungler. It's not great, but it's something. Slater with an amazing flash there also to save this play. It stalled out. The turret got to kind of ramp up and ended up being the reason that Vit ended up dying in this play. So ultimately, I think about as well played as possible from the side of Flash.
Oh no, Slater's got caught out here. No summoner spells available for Killer Kai'Sa. Vit just needed one more auto, but it's not going to come through. You know what, Rebel? I was told that VCS was quite aggressive. I didn't realize it'd be 3-minute level 2 tower dives aggressive.
So we have like this strange moving average where sometimes we get this kind of aggression and sometimes we don't, but this is apparently a double aggression type game.
Yeah, icky guy. Looking to get some action going on the bot side of the map. Killer Queen here once again as Vit and H3 are going to shove this wave into the tower and then hopefully just back away nice and safely, not take any additional risks, although maybe they look for dive number 2 Electric Boogaloo.
We're going to have to start coming up with better names because I know that's a fantastic theme for 2, but we're going to see 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe over the course of this one. It's an unfortunate situation for your poor voice because oftentimes what'll happen...
Oh, double knock up. That's so clean from Killer Queen. RT escapes under the tower, but the kills are evened up across the board.
Yeah, see, usually we have games that can take us into like 2 kill per minute average, and as of lately, especially in the beginning of the season, we don't get that often. We actually had games that were under like half a kill per minute, so this is picking up the quota. Apparently, Luxury and Team Flash, they got the script, and apparently they're supposed to go on a bloodbath today. So I think it's meaningful. I think both Lux and Flash both have very heavy meanings behind what it is that they want to do in the earlier stage, and the Jarvan having an impact towards bottom side, making sure the Zeri, which is supposed to be one of the worst laning champions of the game, is going to get put ahead of this counter pick that was concocted by the side of Team Flash. It's just playing into effectively the game plan that Flash had walking into this one.
And you can see it working. Vid has got himself a minus CS advantage, sort of 10 at this point. Not massive, but pretty good for yourself. And it is Killer Queen who's been making these ganks towards the box side, been making these plays possible. He was one of the players that was highlighted to me as a real star to watch in the VCS.
Definitely the case. We get a bunch of potential star power on both sides of this one. a lot of different teams. This is somebody that you can put a bunch of faith to be able to always count for quite a bit of early playmaking to come through.
Yeah. And Luxury have been one of those teams that has maybe been over-aggressive. Killer Queen now going forward onto Yoshino in the top side. 40% HP on the Jace as they're diving under the tower. The perfect execution, not quite in range, but with the Shuriken flip and the Ignite coated. Grabs the kill, and Killer Queen pops up the shield to survive.
Oh, necessary. And back to bottom side. There is a play. Looks like 4 members found their way into the bottom side where they were able to bring down Vid. So back and forth once again. Team Flash responding in kind to the pressure put on top side. I like this from Ikigai. I know Mabi also talked on the desk about how important it is for Team Flash to get off to an advantage. I don't necessarily even believe they need a pure outright gold advantage, but they do need somebody to play around. That is a bold press of the E button there, H3.
It's probably going to cost you your life as Ikigai was just clearing out the Krugs, but will happily clear out that Leona. Second kill of the game to Slater. This Kai'Sa counter pick is starting to get a little bit more items. Nogo now chained up in the gravity field, trying to throw out as many spells as possible, but that Chaos Storm does so much damage, and the Death Laser forces the Flash out of the Flash mid laner.
There is nobody that is not fighting 100% of the time here. Okay, that was a really neat use of the ultimate coming through from No-Go to be able to force this dive into the bottom side. Unfortunately, Artie doesn't drop even after the Ignite gets put down, so I'm glad we got a chance to see what that full engagement looked like, because we were trying to figure out what happened with Flash and how they got 2 members into the right position for a gank like that. It's really impressive the way they've been able to do this. It's kind of crazy also the fact that they were able to flex the Rise like this, because traditionally Yoshino actually was starting for them in mid lane, and they subbed him out so that No-Go could come in, and they had Marcus in the top lane, and Rise was the go-to champion for Yoshino. So seeing this, there had to be even just a speck of doubt in the head of Luxury when they were planning this draft as to whether or not it was going to be Rise top lane for Yoshino, whether or not No-Go would take it. But clearly, No-Go decently well equipped with the ultimate to be able to face the roams the way that Yoshino had previously.
Oh, Killer Queen going forward onto No-Go in the mid-side. Blazes throwing a load of damage down to Ikigai. Will force the Flash away from Luxury's mid laner, but the kill still goes over to Killer Queen. This is what I was promised, Rebel Fox.
You were promised kills and you were getting kills, Fiddlecott. That's what's going to happen time and time again. We don't even have one of our more kind of seldom teams here. These are 2 of the aggressive teams that like to play quite a bit on the front foot, especially with a comp like this on both sides. I think it makes a lot of sense. I want to praise a little bit of Ikigai right there, because it was easy enough for the conversion kill for Luxury to actually go over to the Victor if nobody puts on pressure. Ikigai's not quite fast enough to stop the gank from coming through, but is fast enough to push back Blazes so that the kill doesn't go onto the Victor. And the difference between having an assist, a kill in terms of like the Victor bucks that you can use to get your upgrades is actually so significant that I think it's definitely worthwhile for Ikigai to have been there, even if it doesn't end up leading to anything except for driving him away.
Yeah, Coated just getting soloed out in the top side by Ikigai. Killer Queen arriving on the scene. No Cataclysm, but you're gonna need more than 4 fancy feet to get out of this one. Ikigai actually just sort of walks away. Okay,
yeah.
Good stuff.
As the support of his top laner who comes back, unfortunately Coded is down from the play that had just happened, where Ikigai came up and got the solo kill. No teleport to speak of either to be able to support that play coming through from Killer Queen. So he just shakes hands with his opposing jungler and says, all right, you can live this time. I'm surprised we're at 9 minutes and nobody has made a Rift Herald swap, because that's another really good way to introduce you to the VCS here, Middlecott. Is we have teams literally throw their entire body into the top side for that Rift Herald, and we'll lose games just flipping that one time and time again. We haven't had that quite yet.
Rebel Fox, why are Blazes and Killer Queen over here?
Red buff.
Yes, red buff. Well, it might cost them a little bit. Killer Queen could flag a drag out, but he chooses to go in and will get shut down. Blaze is now trying to kite onto No-Go, but will just get taken out as well. That was a questionable play.
To say the least. I mean, Coded was already back, or he had died and was walking back to lane. Again, no teleport to support this. Vit and H3 are still in the bottom side. If you've got H3 in the area, the attempt, I suppose, would be just try to push out Vision and make sure that like the top red angle, like the red quadrant of the jungle, is just driven out of for Team Flash, so they could go back to Rift Herald, which is kind of a forward-thinking play.
Diving onto the tower, the perfect execution, and the Ignite will be traded back, but that was pretty sick.
That was pretty nasty from Coded. Coded actually really impressed me. So we have a couple of really solid top laners who play Akali over the course of the season. And one of the ones that impressed me in the preseason over in C Games, which is another tournament that includes a bunch of the professional teams here in VCS, was actually Coded's Akali. Coded's Akali, it was to the point where they were using their original solo queue name, so you couldn't tell who every player was. And we have a player on Saigon Buffalo named Hosmed, who's like a notorious Akali player, and I thought he was Hosmed at one point because of how well he was playing. Yeah, I don't really know what they're doing. I suppose they're going in for Ikigai because they know he's weak, but then the collapse from Yashino, look, Akali's just catching the wave at her own tower. No-Go doesn't have to do anything because the wave's literally in the middle. I don't know what to do, and the picture-in-picture shows even more pressure in the bottom side.
Killer King could have so easily flag dragged out of that situation. Could have so easily opted out and left Blazers to die, but was like, no, I support you. You're my mid laner. You are not going down without my support. A little bit late on the board, but we are starting to see those swaps come out towards this Herald pit. Killer Queen will pick up that objective. Has got a couple minutes to throw this down with some plates.
And this is the bottom side play. I assume this is just Vid dying. Oh, nice Nautilus angle. That's what we like to see. Beautiful, beautiful thing right there. Around the wall, being able to snag that one. That's just a good hook from Artie. It's a tough angle, and I don't think it should have hit. But honestly, if the champion's able to land that, and Artie did that on purpose and not by accident, for whatever reason might be, that was actually a really impressive angle in the hook from Artie to snag him around the corner and force him out. At the beginning of the game was so much pressure put down here. Wow.
You're in a little bit of danger here, but Slater's taking some damage too. Artie's going to tank up the tower and will fall down in the end. No! Pops into the stopwatch! Do they have the time? Do they have the time? They put the W! They're shooting themselves away. H3 is running over with those very swift boots. No! No, Artie! Oh! Spider-Man not quite able to get out of that situation. H3 laughing all the way to the bank with that kill.
Oh, I was in full Saving Private Artie right there mode. It was so close to getting him out of that situation. The stopwatch was gorgeous. The W was gorgeous to get him out of the wave. But the Leona doesn't actually want that. Think about how much resource went into the beginning of the game from Killer Queen to just throw his body into the bottom lane so that they could, not only the dive, but also then the ensuing play afterwards to pick up 2 different kills. Only for them to throw the entirety of that lead on the back of a couple of plays into bottom side now, which has led to 4 deaths on the Zeri. Yes, you have the Trinity Force completed, but the alternative is the Kraken Slayer, and you've got Serrated Dirt done for Slater, so only a handful of auto attacks off the back of the Hail of Blades are necessary to really chip off the entire health bar that Fitz got in front of him. It takes the bottom lane of Luxury was supposed to be kind of like a recipient of resources at a stronger point after some of the early game, but everything that happened all over the, everything that's occurred so far in this bottom side has really driven that completely out of the way.
Well, Rebel Fox, they were definitely the recipient of resources, but the resources were from Team
wrong
Flash.
side. Yes.
Which has led to that sticky situation for Vit that you were just alluding to. Wow. Solo turret plate gold onto Slater, as we do have a solo kill in the top side. Not a solo kill. A little bit of a gank from Killer Queen, so getting coated Zakali, some more resources, a little bit more fed is good, but we are starting to see Flash build themselves a not insignificant advantage at this point.
It's a setup now where it appears as though Killer Queen has decided that the bottom lane is no longer, worthy of receiving any kind of resource, which is fair. You're just abandoning them for their own pity at this point. And in return, he's going up towards the top side of the map where they're competing for top tower, mid tower. They drop the Rift Herald there as well. And so it's a trade-off of like bottom lane and Slater on this Kai'Sa gets quite a bit in the bottom side, and their faith is being, it's coming out as like, okay, Kai'Sa can't necessarily win this game, but a very fed Victor, a very fed Akali could definitely remove that Kai'Sa from the equation.
Blaze is forced to flash out in the mid lane. Solar Flare comes down from H3, but doesn't blind out anyone, doesn't stun up anyone. Did just see that Drake taken 14.5 minutes into the game. Good objective priority there, guys.
First strike. Don't get me started on first strike win conditions, man. This league is pretty.
Soul's a while away at this point.
Yeah, Soul's a very long time away. We're 15 minutes in. What do we have? Basically 4 minutes, and then we'd have more dragons beyond that. So we have like minimum 30 minutes is the soul point for Team Flash if they get every single one pretty much on spawn, right? Like that's that's doing just the basic math behind it. That's assuming Luxury doesn't get anything. They're only down about 2k too, so you can expect more fights. But ultimately, what's going to change this game is some sort of shenanigan, probably around second Rift Herald, that ends up turning things all together, because both teams ending up getting drawn into a fight, which is something to pay attention to. Is what happens on this timer, where the Rift Herald is going to be spawning in a couple of minutes here, whether or not Team Flash and Team Luxury actually decide to make a play for it, because it could actually make a big swing if you grab the Rift Herald on one team and you're able to kind of use it to bring down a tower. It's a big 1,000 lead or 1,000 gold like shift that could potentially come into your pocket. And if you do fight for it, again, like flipping a fight at this point could really change the outcome of the game entirely in one positive way or negative way, depending on whose viewpoint you're looking from.
As Slater is looking for the viewpoint of someone that might soon be dead. Cataclysm invested as the Realm Warp is coming through as well from Nogo, but it's not going to save the AD carry in time. One traded back, though, onto the Leona as Artie has now joined the fray, and Killer Queen taken solo. Coated on the other side, though. Look at his solo out Icky, guys. It's a re-engage, actually, on the bottom half of the fight, but that's not going to go well for Luxury as two members have already fallen down. It's another aggressive play in the jungle for Luxury, but once again, it's Flash coming out on top.
Is Flash pulling more kills than their opposition did, and it ends up being just the 1 for 3. But you can see there's a number of times now where like the two solo laners out from Luxury are close to doing a significant amounts of work. Right there, Coded is just a little bit of damage short of bringing down Ikigai. And even in like the 1v3 scenario that he was put into, I think Blazes was extremely close. Burnt 2 flashes off the back of the Chaos Storm, just being dropped on the low members. You can see that at the end of the fight. They're fishing for Slater, because again, Slater's the one who's received a bunch of resource. He's 4-2 on the Kai'Sa in the course of this game. You can see Coded puts a bunch of pressure into Nogo, but Nogo isn't drawn any further back because Artie has a very nice positioning to kind of close off everything. And you can see this is where Blazes enters. Look at the low health bars here. If he hits a laser onto Nogo, if that ultimate comes out faster and Artie doesn't have flash, 2 members go down to Blazes alone. If he's just got a little bit more damage in his back pocket, if Coded has a little more damage in his back pocket, I'm curious. Ooh, we're getting a lot more.
Slater being caught out again, but it's actually Artie who's going to end up being the target. That means H3 is taking most of his health bar in damage. And it's not an auspicious fight to the start for Luxury, but they do get the first kill as Coated, buying a lot of time with that Shroud. Nogo forced away from the side. Only a single kill thus far. And TPs were invested, so a lot used by Luxury. They are going to be able to pick up Nogo on the other side, you have to imagine. So he's just going to burn down, get poked in the back with that Q from Killer Queen. And Luxury definitely not out of this, still fighting back as the mid lane is now the focus for both teams.
Oh, Killer Queen's still here as well. I don't think the Cataclysm... Actually, Cataclysm is available!
Ikigai forcing him back as he's going forward onto Yoshino, but he doesn't have time to cast the ultimate before he's taken out. Slater grabbing that one. Mid lane tower will fall down for Luxury, but their jungler will be the price that they pay.
It's a bloodbath in this one. We're up to 28 kills at 18 minutes. We're going to hit that 2 kill per minute mark that we so sorely have been missing over the last couple of days in the earlier stages of the week. Something that's always going to rack in my brain now over the course of this game. It appears as though Killer Queen has completely shifted his mindset, which is something kind of incredible to me that a lot of junglers get stuck into, which is you set up a win condition around Vit and H3 at the beginning of the game, doesn't pan out, and instead of kind of like doubling down, tripling down into that and letting your solo lanes go to ruin, he shifted into playing into them. And that's why Coded currently sits on 2 completed items. You're close to a second completed item. And I wonder how much he's going to kick himself if in this game, Blazes and Coded end up almost carrying, but not quite. And what he could have done with the resources that were spent trying to get Vit and H3 into a better place in this game. And if that bottom side dive, the second gank hadn't actually worked and gone through, what kind of things they could have accomplished with these 2 solo laners in the meantime.
And do you know what, Rebel Fox? I've not had very much time to appreciate the beauty of VCS, but I just love how these teams are constantly hands-checking each other. Every single play that you can envisage, they're going to go for, and sometimes it works out, like grabbing that first kill of the fight. Sometimes you dive under the mid lane tower and you get exploded before you can even use your ultimate. Drake going to be the next focus, the second one of the game, 1 apiece now for Luxury and Flash.
Truly, we get the duality of League of Legends. We have some of the most beauteous plays that you'll ever see here. You get actually some really creative ideas that come through, but then you also have times where somebody goes to a level 2 dive from a Jarvan that ends up being a double kill for Artie.
Ikigai going under the tower. H3 exploded before the pony even gets there. Good stuff for Flash as they take the mid lane tower as well.
able to force that down. It's big because it seems as though Flash is
Okay.
actually grouping just as fast as possible. Coded, he's a little past his pay grade right now.
We've just found the line. That's where VCS doesn't fight.
Yes, 1v4 in the opposing jungle with no support from your team and no vision. I suppose Coded was able to suss that one out and make sure to know that that was not perhaps the move, that the Chiefs would not be in the fullest support of that one.
Yeah, don't do that, buddy. Not the correct call. We have crested that 20-minute mark, so Baron is now an option for both of these sides.
That's
and
an
considering how much damage that I think they've both got, it's a realistic possibility. No-Go now jumped onto by Coated, but without the Shuriken flip, they cannot follow the round warp.
Yeah, tragic. It needed it to actually go in right there, and there's no flash, obviously, on the Akali, so it's easy enough for No-Go to just get out of dodge on that one, but it was a legitimate threat. There's no magic resist on the rise. There's a lot of health, but Coded rips through that health bar like it's paper at this point, so that's at least one positive thing to come about. Again, side laning is something that they could go back to time and time again. They can play to all three lanes because their solo laners aren't that bad on their own right, although they are fighting now with no Coded here.
This could be dangerous considering that Slater is on 3 items and Vit is on 1.5. This is a 4v5, which is not going to end well for you, Luxury, if you do hard commit to it. But they're just backing away. HV might be a little bit caught in the river here, but he's just able to walk it out. Artie now going forward with the dredge line. And yeah, there's not much that you can do as the Leona. Actually, they're going to fight around and Killer Skurgad for first kill. Slater grabs one for himself, though, as he will be able to take down the Jarvan 2, and now Coated is locked up in the backline and doesn't really have an angle to attack this fight. It's a triple kill for the Kai'Sa. I think Baron is a real possibility for Flash now.
There's so many times where there's just like a random mispositioning mistake. There's like a position that looks really good, but it's not quite the angle that you're looking for if you're on the side of Luxury. And it's happened time and time again right there a couple of times. First off, like H3 was just completely out of position in that fight, but without going into the semantics of everything specifically that happened, use of the Rift Herald in the play afterwards is much bigger. Flash is slowly accumulating a pretty big lead off the back of mistakes. This was H3 getting caught more than anything else. Vid in the backline was able to kind of throw a little bit of damage into Ikigai. Coded was trying to turn this one around, but no ultimate on Coded, and the miss of the Shuriken flip meant that there's no way to kill off Slater, so you could just walk forward and fight. The triple kill for the Kai'Sa is a byproduct of just the fight kind of developing around the Kai'Sa with no real threat ever coming around in one collective meeting, right? Blazes was never there with Killer Queen. Coded wasn't there with an ultimate. Vit wasn't able to auto attack. And so Kai'Sa just gets to sit there and auto attack herself. And that's kind of what she's designed to do this game.
And in situations where Luxury often end up approaching these fights from a couple of different angles, that reposition tool of the Killer Instinct means that you can get exactly where your damage is going to be most useful, and we're really starting to see that from Slater. Interesting to see that he's opted towards the Hex Drinker now with that Caulfield's Warhammer, so I imagine that we're going to get that completed into more of Malmortius, as Coated has not got a hope of getting out of that scenario, and now Flash may look to re-engage. That's an unstoppable onslaught forward from Ikigai, but it doesn't really catch anyone. It's a 3-man Cataclysm. Slater repositions to the backside, though, and is looking to just take down Blazes without a hope in hell for the mid laner. Killer Queen is going to be the next focus, as Vit is trying to kite away on the top side of the map, but he's not going to be able to do it, although Ikigai just chases him down in the end, although the Luxury AD carry is still kiting. He's got his first kill of the fight, and possibly we can see a re-engage here. Killer Queen takes out RT. It's still a victorious fight for Flash, but Luxury, signs of life.
Yeah, Vit claiming a little bit too much in that fight for what was actually necessary. And think about this, Middle Cot, right? I just want to throw this postulation into your brain. Imagine that we didn't have, like, the last 10
Killer
minutes.
Queen?
Okay.
What are you doing?
Oh, God, he's got his AirPods in. He can't hear us. What are you doing? Yeah, see, I was about to praise Killer Queen on the turn right there, and I was about to say, imagine that we didn't have the 10 minutes of gameplay where we're just throwing away lives and fighting 100% of the time, and you walk into this 24-minute fight where a Jarvan Cataclysm locks 3 members into a Chaos Storm from a Victor. That is a winning fight. 99% of the time when you're not down 5,000 gold. It's so upsetting to watch, because think about it. These are the situations. They don't have coded. This is about as dire as it's going to be from the side of Luxury. Ikigai gets into the backline, push off Blazes right here. Look how gorgeous that is. Any other situation with that exact setup, and this looks so much better for the side of Luxury. Eventually, obviously, Vid is able to pull one kill and kind of salvage what is a little tiny bit of what happened in the course of this play, but it's just been so much needless fighting again and again from both teams.
Oh no, needless fighting, needless aggression. We're seeing it once again. Slader with the first kill onto Vit. He won't be able to kite out the rest of this one. Killer Queen going to be the next focus, as here comes Blazes, and he goes down in a blaze of, well, not exactly gory. Coated now, looking to grab his own hero moment, but will not find it. Luxury kind of just throwing their bodies at Flash at this point, and they are more than happy with that situation.
Yeah, Flash is, I think the majority of their lead has actually been accumulated not through like CSing or towers or anything of the sort, but it's mostly been through just kills. They're 13 kills over top of their opposition, and a large part of that has led to the ramifications of objectives going down, turrets going down. It's so much space on the map that's being granted just because Luxury can't seem to find like the pull-off button. It's so weird. Luxury is known for aggression, right? Like they are. There's nothing saying that they aren't. But this is like so far into needless aggression. This is not what we were remembering from Luxury. This is like Luxury from the first season they were in the VCS, which is when they had won out through the promotion tournament, and then they just completely fell flat on their face. They looked like a team that was beyond exciting, and then out of nowhere, the team just completely failed across the board. And this is what they kind of looked like. It was like needless aggression, unnecessary like risks that were being taken. At least their top laner wasn't named Ken, and we weren't memeing about how he gets 3 points every game because he was literally winning games for the other team. But this is such a really hard thing to watch because, again, this is not the Luxury we've become accustomed to over the last split or so.
And it's Flash engaging this fight here, but it's ultimately Luxury that choose to opt in. Coated coming here at the back half, going kind of 1v9 almost, and nearly makes it happen, but...
that seems to be the theme this game. I feel like every player has had this moment where they're like, I'm going to 1v9.
Oh, they're thinking about it here, popping over the wall as the fight's going to begin. But all 5 members of Flash are here. Luxury were looking for a flank, but I don't think it's going to pan out in their favor. The first kill of the fight goes over to Team Flash, and this is just going to be a wash. Vit doesn't have enough damage to cut this out as Slater gets another double kill. Blaze is going to be taken out on the backside as the killer instinct into the backline secures the triple kill. Round what? Back over to Vit. You can run, but you cannot hide from Team Flash. Actually, maybe you can run, maybe you can hide. Slater going over the wall here, but just trying to buy as much time as he can. This is so dumb, man. Why can't you kill this area? Okay, hook connects, in with the W, and that is an ace.
See, now I'm really upset because there have been moments where, like, at the beginning of the game, Coated and Blazes were the ones doing these things where, like, tough fights looked closer than they were because of the performance of those 2 solo laners. And I was praising how Killer Queen kind of shifting up the top side was one way they could have kind of salvaged the early game, even though they left Vit out to dry. Now I'm thinking, if Vit were the one that received all these resources, imagine what that fight looks like. Imagine one further item into the inventory of Vit. That fight probably looks really good for them as well. It's such a confusing game because there was all this needless aggression, so many moments where players just went well beyond their bounds, and yet we're still getting these like crazy highlight moments from Vit every once in a while. It just proves how good he is, even though his opposition currently sits at 18 kills. It's an Infinity Edge Kaiser.
Yeah, and you can see what Luxury are trying to do here. They're trying to get this play off in a numbers advantage fight, but I don't think they realize that Slater and Ikigai are right here.
It's a matter of a couple of things. First off, like you said, yeah, the fact that Slater, Ikigai are right here, and then Artie also kind of neutering the front end of that engagement with like the Jarvan. But the players weren't really there either. Yeah, Artie went super low right there. The fact that Slater also used the Realm Warp was awesome as well, putting 4 members right back on top of Vit. But the biggest thing I think of that was the engagement came out way too quickly. I think they needed to wait until they had wrapped around fully onto Vit, because it buys more space away from the rest of the team, and then your engagement can also come in from like basically from the river, and you pinch them into the wall, and that means that Vit can come back off the turret once it goes down when they wrap around him, and all of a sudden like the geometry of the fight looks so much better. Instead, 2 of your members get caught out in the river before all of your damage shows up, and that means you're fighting a 3v5 at the front end.
And that's not a good thing to do if you want to win League of Legends games. At least from what I've learned from my far too many years of playing this game, Flash now looking to pick up soul points. I didn't think, honestly, Rebel Fox, that the game would get to this point, but because we've had so many fights, no one's actually been able to take anyone's Nexus quite yet. So we will see this Drake picked up, but I imagine that Flash are going to want to close this one out pretty sharpish.
That's a rough task sometimes for teams here in the VCS. They're up 14,000 gold. You'd think they'd be able to wrap up a game really quickly, but again, like you said, the Elder Dragon is not available for a short time. The Soul Point isn't even available for another 5 minutes at minimum, so they might have to wait for another Baron or something along those lines. They're likely going to be able to crack a bottom inhibitor off the back of this right here if the wave doesn't get cleared out by Blazes and by Vit very quickly. That's a question mark. Yeah, they're not even going to be able to get the push, so they're just going to have to wait. The mid inhibitor is down, but they've got wave clear here for Luxury to stall this out. I really do think they're probably going to have to wait the minute 25 for the Baron to come up, and then they just take it because Slater's too strong. Yeah. You got a ton of damage in your members. Like it's an easy wrap up from there to just be able to take the remainder of the base, but it seems like Flash is going to have to play that game.
Oh, we're very much looking at the AD carry versus the AD carry that we've got at home here, because Slater. 5 items complete. I imagine that there's a red pot in there as well. Vit only just completing that Blade the Rune King. And he looked good in that last fight, but the difference in power level between these marksmen is becoming pretty apparent.
Yeah, if there is any chance for Luxury in this game, which already seems a little preposterous in its own right, but if there's any chance at all that Luxury can win out in a game like this, it has to be basically Vit 1v4ing every member except Slater, and then the 4 members on your team taking out Slater. And honestly, I think I favor Slater in that 4v1, but...
Potentially, we'll Blaze is now going to get in his own 3v1 here, and Slater takes him out with ease. Luxury don't really have a play to make here as Coated. Actually going forward onto Slater. The Kaiser has so much HP though. Cleanses away. The Shot Blast not going to connect, but the Akali going to get taken down nonetheless. In goes Ikigai over the wall. Vit still kiting around on this Zeri, but with 2 members dead, it looks like Flash are going to be picking up the first game in this series.
Easy enough for them to be able to do so. They're waiting on the next wave to come in. And Vit, that's dead Zeri. Yeah.
No hope there, and
not at all.
It was a strong performance from Vit, one that possibly wasn't accurately reflected by his KDA. Ikigai just diving under the tower just for the fun of it. Game 1 goes over to Team Flash.
Doing a little bit of his best Killer Queen impression.